Hello, everybody. Welcome into Fantasy Football Teachers. Today, we're talking Deshaun Watson, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's decided he's had it. He's done. He wants out of Houston, wants to be traded. In fact, recent rumors says that he is considering sitting out in 2021 if the Texans do not send him elsewhere. So what does that mean for fantasy football? If you have him in a dynasty league, say, or if you're considering drafting him next season, where are you hoping he lands? We're going to break that down. But first, don't forget, subscribe right here to the Fantasy Football Teachers YouTube channel. And don't forget, ring that notification bell as well so you get notified every time we have a new video coming out. Joining me today, we've got Kyle Olson. KO, how you doing, man?
Trevor, doing well, buddy. Good to see you. Good to be on. I'm getting excited for the weekend, for the big game this weekend. And yeah, on Watson, man, it is exciting. Both of us have him in dynasty leagues, like you said. If you have him in a dynasty league, you're excited to see kind of where he goes and where he ends up, and you're probably doing the same thing we're going to be doing tonight, is going and looking at those potential spots where he could be, and kind of just thinking about what kind of numbers he could put up.
I'm assuming that Ben Fisher does not have him in a dynasty league, and that's why he wasn't able to make it tonight to join us,
Exactly.
because he's figured, no, I'm not going to talk Deshaun Watson with
Right.
these guys. He's not on any of my teams. Forget it. But
He's jealous.
he is.
It's all right.
Well, let's start with this. Let's start with this. So Deshaun Watson, we know he's a tremendous real life quarterback, but in terms of fantasy
Sure.
football, he is a top blank quarterback. Where would you put him? Is he, top six, top seven, top two? I don't know. How high on him are you?
Right. I mean, I think he's for sure a top five, and I think he's got that potential to be right in that 3 to 4 range. I mean, dude, he could be the QB1 if he gets in the right situation, if he plays up to his potential. But conservatively, I'd put him right in that 4 or 5 range. Last year in a full season, he was QB6. Actually, after Bill O'Brien was fired, starting week 5, he was QB2. So he was just about the top quarterback in the league after that. He runs the ball well. We talked on the last show about quarterbacks that run the ball in fantasy football are very important to your scoring. He had the sixth most rushing yards last year, 440 some yards, I believe it was. So he's going to run the ball. He's going to get those rushing attempts, add you a few rushing touchdowns. So just because of all that stuff, I'm putting him right around that spot. Where are you putting him at?
Yeah, I've got him about the same. And so here's the thing. When you've got a guy like Deshaun Watson, you look at the season that he put up last season, right? And you think about first 4 games you kind of have to throw out because Bill O'Brien was awful. And then he gets unleashed, right? It's Deshaun. You finally get
Yeah,
to see what he can do. And then part of the way
sure.
through the season, he loses Will Fuller, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He just keeps going.
Right.
And that gives me a little bit of
Yeah.
hope that even if he gets sent somewhere where the receiving core is not so pretty, then he can still put up some numbers. This is a guy that's extremely talented. I think, like you said, if everything breaks right, he can be the QB1. He's got that
Sure.
kind of potential. Now, I would still put
Right.
what Mahomes ahead of him. You're putting
Yeah.
you're putting certainly Josh Allen ahead of him,
Yeah.
another guy who does a lot with his legs. And then of course we can
Right.
debate. Dak Prescott probably drops back a little bit. Kyler Murray, I think you're probably taking ahead of Deshaun Watson. But after that, I think we could get into a little bit of a debate about Lamar Jackson
Sure.
versus Deshaun Watson. Lamar was not great last season, was
Yeah.
incredible the season before. So I think that's where you start
Right.
considering Deshaun Watson is
Yeah.
right at that QB4 spot, at least for me.
Sure. No, absolutely, dude. And I mean, even with like Murray, there's still, yeah, I mean, he puts up huge fantasy numbers. He's got the running ability, but there's some minor red flags with him, real football wise, right? So
Mhm.
I think if Watson gets in that right spot, if he gets to a spot where he has a bunch of weapons, there's definitely going to be people that are going to be taking him above a Kyler Murray, maybe above a Lamar. I do agree. I think those guys, especially Murray's still a little bit ahead of him, but I think, that's why the landing spot is a big deal because it could put him ahead. And I agree, dude. I mean, when Bill O'Brien made that, great trade to get rid of DeAndre Hopkins, right? You kind of thought, oh my God, Watson. I was thinking, Watson, he's losing Hopkins. Didn't really matter, right? Like you said. And then he had Fuller, but Fuller went down. He still kept putting up numbers. So you're right. I mean, even if he goes to a spot that doesn't have as many weapons, he's still going to be a good quarterback. He's still going to put up good fantasy numbers. But you get in a really good situation, then you're getting really excited about him. But yeah, he's proven he's going to put up fantasy numbers year in and year out, and he's gonna run the ball for you. He's a good passer. He's gonna put up points. And so yeah, dude, it's exciting. I think he's got the potential to move up draft boards and to and to put up big points next year.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league. Just there's a lot of teams that should want to have him, but right now we're hearing
Absolutely.
there's two teams that are realistically probably the front runners, and that's the New York Jets and the Miami
Yep.
Dolphins. And part of that is because of the draft picks that they have at their disposal to
Sure.
burn. Potentially, you could go get him. The Jets have plenty of picks, and then with the Dolphins, we could be looking at Tua and picks,
Right.
so which
Yeah.
might have some appeal to the Texans. So I guess let's start with the Jets, because everybody, when you think of the Jets, it's almost like you say it with just like this gross taste in your mouth, like, oh, it's the Jets. Not a very good team this last season, but Adam Gase is gone. So are the
Right.
skies finally parting there, and the Jets are going to be able to, well, fly, I guess. Deshaun Watson coming in potentially, and then you've got a few options there. You've got Jamison Crowder and some players like that. Denzel Mims,
Sure.
certainly. Are you optimistic though? Because I feel like that's not between the two. I would rather see him in Miami, but is there some upside if he
Yeah.
winds up going to the Jets?
I mean, it's one of those things that they can't be much worse. And with Gase gone, you're right. I think that gives you the chance to, maybe they're going to be able to get a little more creative with the offense. He does, you got Denzel Mims, you got Crowder, like you said, Herndon. But yeah, I'm still not that excited, man. I mean, it's, Watson could go there and do some things and be all right. But yeah, I wouldn't be too excited if he goes, if he goes to Jets, which I know it looks like he definitely could. That's going to make it not as exciting for me to have him on my dynasty team. But then again, they could be playing from behind a lot, throwing the ball all over the place. So even if his weapons aren't great, he's probably still going to put up the yards. Maybe the touchdowns take a drop a little bit, but yeah, I would definitely put Miami ahead, dude. I mean, Miami, you've got Devontae Parker, you've got Preston Williams coming back off the injury, you've got Gesicki, so you've got definitely more weapons and more guys that have proven themselves more. I mean, Devontae Parker can be a stud wide receiver in this league if he can stay healthy, and if you get him a good quarterback throwing the ball, I would be really excited to see what Parker can do with Deshaun Watson throwing the ball. So yeah, between those two, man, I don't. To me, it's not even that close. Just because of the way the Jets have played, obviously things can change, but I would put the Dolphins fantasy-wise spot for Watson quite a ways ahead, and I think it also just makes those fantasy options in Miami more exciting than it changes the ones in New York. Obviously, it helps the guys in New York too, but I think him going to Miami, to me, for the fantasy perspective, is just way more exciting, not just for Watson, but for the receivers and the other guys there too.
Yeah, agree 100%. I would much rather see him in Miami. I think he should prefer going to Miami as
Oh,
well
yeah.
and being
I
in
mean,
that kind of weather compared
right.
to going up to
Yeah.
playing with the Jets. But it feels like the most likely landing spot is still the
Right.
Jets, but we'll have to wait and see what actually
Sure.
goes down. But let's dream a little bit here, right? This is fantasy football after all. So what are the ideal landing spots while still being in the realm of reality somewhat? I mean, obviously he's not going to, I don't know, he's not going to the Rams because they just traded
Right.
for Matt Stafford. He's obviously not going to the Kansas City Chiefs, all these teams that have
Sure.
quarterbacks locked in. So out of the teams that could conceivably trade for him, what would be your number one landing spot?
Well, I mean, likelihood wise, I'm not sure, but as far as just going to a place with weapons and going to a team that I think would be a great fit for him, I think Denver. I think the
Yeah.
Denver Broncos. You look at their young receivers. I mean, you go in there with Jerry Jeudy, with Cortland Sutton, who's already proven he can play. Jeudy didn't have a great year last year, but I mean, they had, one game they had the practice squad quarterback, right? I can't even remember who it was. I'm sorry, but it was bad, right?
I have
Fant.
repressed his name. Like I don't, the name is not
Right.
coming to mind either,
Right.
but it's because I
Yeah.
actually played him in a league. In fact,
You
you were
did.
in that league and I actually played him
Yes.
thinking, "Oh, I am sneaking in a quarterback into
Right.
a wide receiver spot and this is going to be amazing."
Right.
And I lost that week because of it. So I
I'm
at this
pretty
point I
sure.
have purged his name from my memory.
Yeah, dude, I think I was playing you that week, and I think I was like actually concerned. I was like, oh crap, he's gonna
That's
pull
right.
this move on me, and then I was like, okay, that actually worked out for me. So I got lucky on that one. But yeah, I mean, but dude, Judy, Sutton, KJ Hamler had a couple big games this year. Noah Fant, and you've got Gordon coming back, so you've still got a talented running back there where that running game can help. to pick up your passing game. So I think Denver, if that was to happen, they need they need somebody to come in. They need a top level quarterback. I think if he was to go to Denver, and again, same as that with Miami, now that makes Jerry Jeudy better.
Right.
That makes Sutton even better, who's already been really good. KJ Hamler takes a step up, which he should anyway, second year. So, yeah, I don't honestly see. I mean, I think Miami's a good fit too, but I don't see really a better spot weapons wise and situation wise than really the Denver Broncos right now.
Yeah, I
And I
agree.
don't know if you feel the same way, but
No, I agree 100%. I think that that would be the ideal spot as somebody who has him on my fantasy squad. That's where I would love for him to land. I also don't think it's very likely that he winds up there, but I can tell you
yeah,
this. Drew Lock, he is not locked in there in Denver. If they wind up bringing in a Deshaun Watson, that can take that team up to the next level. But I
no,
doubt that that's going to wind up happening. But
right.
if it
We're
did,
dreaming.
I think that you've got to. I don't know how high you can bump him. Maybe now if he winds up in Denver, maybe you're looking at the QB3. You can put him there behind Allen
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Patrick Mahomes. So I think that's an interesting landing spot for him. But another one that I need to throw out here that I
Yeah.
think is actually a pretty interesting one is if a certain somebody decides to call it quits. And no, I'm not talking about Drew Brees. I'm talking about Ben Roethlisberger. Most likely he's coming
Oh
back,
yeah.
but if he
Okay.
doesn't, with
Right.
those receiving weapons in Pittsburgh, man, I mean that you
Yeah.
could have a really, really nice fantasy season for Deshaun Watson if he winds up with the Steelers.
Dude, and honestly, as you say that, it makes me almost rethink Denver. I think Denver's really. I think that they're like
Yeah,
1 and 1A because whether or not Juju comes back, I mean, you've got Deontay Johnson who's proven he can ball out. You've got Chase Claypool who had some just monster games
just
this
those
year, just
two. I mean,
ridiculous
even if you
games.
stopped right there, like
Um,
that alone is
right.
incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, like really, you compare those to the Denver guys we mentioned, Judy Sutton, those guys are already more established. Now in Denver, you've got Hamler as a third guy. I think that's probably a little, James Washington's been good. But if Juju's back, then they're off the charts. It's
Yeah.
probably got to be Pittsburgh. I'm kind of operating under the assumption that Juju ends up somewhere else. Um, but yeah, I think Pittsburgh with the weapons there, again, not crazy likely, but again, going by fantasy wise, where could he end up? He could end up there. We see
hmm
surprises all the time, right? Like, yeah, it's looking now like the Jets, maybe the Dolphins, but in the sports world, we see surprises, right? You think somebody's going to one place and all of a sudden, boom, they shift gears, or some of the reports were coming out wrong, or whatever it is. And all of a sudden now they're going to this team that wasn't really expected. That was like down the list or whatever. So yeah, I mean, anything could happen. You never know. Again, not the most likely thing, but dude, yeah, Steelers would be ridiculous for him. With the weapons there, just look at what Big Ben does there. Even getting older age and all that. You put a young Watson there. I think that also can re-energize the team. I think they were 12-0 this year, and then they just took a crap at the end of the year, just not good. But that could be a re-energizing too, and sometimes that leads to more fantasy points as well, right? So, yeah, I
That
agree
would be
with you
that would
on
be
that one
amazing.
for
I mean,
sure.
Claypool is an absolute monster, and so to be able to just launch the ball up to him, and the Steelers they can add some pieces certainly, but their running game was not great last season, most games, and so they
Sure,
couldn't rely on that
sure,
very much. So they just told Big Ben, "Hey, go ahead, throw. You're going to throw a bunch, and we're going to rely on all this
right,
receiving talent. If you slide Deshaun Watson into that system, into that kind of a mindset." Ooh, he could put up some big points. But another team
oh for
that I
sure.
think could be a really nice fit for him that might be on the market for a QB, 49ers. I mean, Garoppolo, are they really going to stick with him? Was pretty rough this last season, and you've got some talent there.
Right,
You've got Debo Samuel, you've got Ayuk. What do you think about that? And then, I mean, of course, I can't leave him out. George Kittle, my goodness.
right. That would be another great spot for him. I know, and I think it's a possibility because they were even talking. I was hearing Stafford's
hmm
name with the Niners just when he was still on the market. So yeah, that's another place where the weapons are there. Debo Samuel is again an absolute stud. He does everything for that offense. Ayuk had just a monster rookie year. I know I regretted not taking him in all the
hmm
dynasties that I'm in. The couple with had other guys over him, and Ayuk just blew up. So, and then yeah, you've got one of the top couple tight ends in the league in George Kittle there. So, I mean, if he is there, if he was to go to the Niners, that's again, I don't put it quite up there with the Steelers and Broncos just because of how many guys they have. But honestly, though, with the tight end, I mean, dude, that might be about the
Yeah.
same. That's pretty close. I would still put it slightly below, but yeah, that'd be another great spot for him. And again, just with the talent there and just with the people
Well,
you'd put
and I
around
think
him. So
with the
I
Niners too,
agree.
we also have to remember their mentality. Like we just talked about the last team with the Steelers, where they kind of said, "Okay, our run game's not great. We're going to admit that. So let's throw the ball like crazy because we have all this wide receiver talent."
Yeah,
The 49ers, they've got
right.
wide receiver talent, but their first option is to run. Their second option is to
Yeah, that's the
run.
thing
Their
there.
third option is
Right.
to run most likely, but maybe consider throwing the ball. Now, maybe that's because they didn't have a Deshaun Watson level talent at quarterback. So that could certainly
Sure.
change things. But just in terms of what an ideal game script looks like for them, I don't think it's
Yeah.
the same as say the Steelers or even the Denver Broncos. But a few more teams that we need to get
Yeah.
into here. Let's jump over to Chicago. What about the Bears? I mean, Mitch
Yeah.
Trubisky could be on his way out. The Nick Foles experiment,
Sure.
don't think that worked out so well. And they've got some receiving talent, of course. Allen Robinson, incredible, and then the
Sure.
rookie tight end, rookie last season, Cole Kmet. You've got some guys that you can throw the ball to there. And let's face it, that Chicago offense was pretty brutal to watch last season.
Yeah, I mean, he would give them a total shot in the arm coming in there. I know Trubisky
Yes,
played
he
a little
did.
bit better toward the end of the year, obviously, but yeah, that's just another situation where it would be really cool to see what could a team like that struggled, overall their offense struggled, but that has some weapons, right? And has Komet, you're right, came on at the end of the year. Allen Robinson's a beast, Anthony Miller. So it would be really cool to see, okay, what could happen if that team gets a top level quarterback? Because that could, they were borderline, they were in the playoffs last year, right? Barely made it, I know, but they were in the playoffs. They were still a
Yeah.
playoff team, whether I think they're 8-8. So, but still, does he come in? Does that add 2 wins? Does that add 3 wins? Could they get to 11-5? I'm not saying they do for sure, but like a quarterback that has shown he can play in this league and has shown he can win. Just 2 years ago, they were a playoff. Houston was a playoff team. Watson's taken them well with them before. So yeah, the Bears, definitely not as exciting, I don't think, as the teams we've talked about, but as a potential option and a team he can make a lot better. And again, talking fantasy options, some guys that he could make even better options for you, like A Rob, maybe Komet
Yeah.
second year. Those guys, yeah, I absolutely think the Bears would not be a
I
bad
mean,
option
if you
for
think
him.
about it too, like as excited as I would be to see Deshaun Watson land in Denver, right? Or with the Steelers or one of those places. If he landed in Chicago, I think the guy I would be most excited about would be Allen Robinson because that would instantly be the best quarterback he's played with in his entire career. Like if we're ever going to
Yeah,
find out truly how good Allen Robinson is, it would be if the Bears can land a quarterback like Deshaun Watson. He's
yeah,
never had that. And so for that reason
yeah.
alone, it would be kind of cool.
Yeah, dude, you might see him. I mean, he's had his first season in Jacksonville. He had a huge season, but you're right. He's never had like a top level quarterback, and so that is exciting. I mean, I know Devontae Parker's not to the Allen Robinson level yet, but it's the
Mhm.
same thing you'd like to see with Devontae Parker. Parker's had Fitzpatrick throwing to him, Tua throwing to him. He hasn't
But
had.
Fitz locked on to him though, and would
He
just
did,
pepper him the
yeah,
ball. So even if it wasn't,
yeah,
he's not the best quarterback, but that volume, and
right,
who knows, maybe Watson would
yeah,
do the
but
same.
yeah, but I see like A Rob and Devontae Parker as those similar, like could be
Hmm.
top level receivers, and getting them a really good quarterback like Watson is very exciting for sure to see, what level that can push him to.
Right.
So yeah, dude, I mean, I'd be okay, I'd be okay seeing him with the Bears just because it'd be cool to see like what can the Bears do with, when's the last time the Bears had a really good quarterback? I'm trying to, I'm as we're talking, I'm trying to think.
It's been a
I
while.
I mean, was it in the 80s? I'm sure that I'm probably missing somebody here, but holy crap. I just thought about that. I'm like, holy crap, when did the Bears last have like a top level quarterback? I might have been Jim McMahon. I don't know. But
Hasn't been their thing in quite a while. So I'm sure the Bears fans would really enjoy seeing Deshaun Watson there. But let's roll on because I've got a few more that we're going to get to here,
Okay.
kind of rapid fire. So
Sure.
the Jacksonville Jaguars. There have been some rumors out
Okay.
there. What if the Jaguars say, "Hey, number one pick overall, Deshaun Watson. Let's do this." I mean, the Jaguars they need a quarterback.
Right.
Perhaps that's a fit there. You're essentially trading Trevor Lawrence in exchange
Sure.
for Deshaun Watson. So I guess first of all, do you make that swap? Do you trade the rookie quarterback that is hyped to the moon? Do you trade him to get Deshaun Watson? Is that a swap you make? And then what would you think about him going there and playing in Jacksonville?
Well, I guess yeah, with putting on the GM hat, obviously not as experienced as those guys, but to me, I would do it. Like I
Yeah,
know Lawrence has the hype, and I'm sure he's going to be really good. But we already know Deshaun Watson's good.
right.
So that's kind of my thinking. And Watson's still young too, right? So it's not like you're going and getting a 33-year-old quarterback that you know is good. You're getting a young quarterback that you know is good and you know can provide level. You're pretty sure Lawrence can, but you know Watson can. And so to me, you take the guy that's a sure thing because you never know with quarterbacks that are drafted early. Look at Ryan Leaf. There are quarterbacks that have come into this league that have been hyped to the moon as well
Yeah,
and have tanked. I don't think that's Lawrence. I think Lawrence is going to be good, but is he for sure going to be that top five quarterback that Deshaun Watson already is? We don't know yet. So I would absolutely, if I'm the Jaguars and I could do that trade. I know that the money stuff, with contracts and he's, the younger guy probably, don't pay him as much, but
sure.
all that stuff aside, if I'm just looking at which one makes my team better, you bring in Watson, I think hands down, just because you already know he can play. And then you put him in there with Chenault, who already had a good rookie season. DJ Chark hopefully takes a step forward because, again, Chark's got talent. Chark's had big games in this league. Um, and again, keep going back to it, but a really good quarterback's going to make those receivers better. So, yeah, dude, I personally would say if I was a Jags fan, I'd be excited about Trevor Lawrence, but I think I would be more excited about Watson, and it would probably get me a little more excited about my team, knowing that they're willing to make that type of a move and trade away that pick, who everybody's hyped on and all that, and bring in Watson. To me, that just shows, hey, they're not afraid to make a big move and like try to win right now. Because with Watson coming in, he makes you better right now. With
Yeah.
Lawrence, you don't know. It could take him a couple years. And again, I don't think he'll be a tank. I think he's going to be good. But we've seen college quarterbacks that were lights out that came in with all this hype. Jamarcus Russell, right? I already said Ryan
Mhm.
Leaf, that have flopped. And with Watson, at least you know he's not a flop. He's already proven he can play.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And I think from the other side of that trade too, if you're Houston, you got to look at it as okay, we're losing a franchise quarterback, but we'd be getting potentially a franchise quarterback. And I don't
sure.
know that there's another offer that gives you that. Like if it's Picks and Tua, I don't think you're getting that. If it's Picks and Sam Darnold, you're not getting the caliber
Right.
of quarterback you could get if the Jaguars are willing to part with number one overall. But let's continue on. What about replacing Drew Brees? I mean, we're assuming it
Yeah.
sure seems that he's leaning that way, that the Brees will indeed be retiring. What if he were to become a New Orleans Saint?
Yeah.
Sorry, Jameis, I guess, or sorry, Taysom Hill. Who knows who is the heir apparent
Right.
there? But if Deshaun Watson were to head there, what would you think about that?
Dude, that's an exciting one for me too. If he was there playing for Sean Payton, throwing the ball
Hmm.
to Michael Thomas, I'm not sure on Emmanuel Sanders' contract situation, but you've got some other weapons there. But you've got Michael Thomas, who's proven he can be the wide receiver one, the best receiver in the league. He's obviously come down a little bit now with
He
his
had a
injuries and
rough
stuff.
season this last
He
year.
had a rough season, right? But just a year ago, he was a top, one of if not the top receiver in the league still, right? So
Mhm.
he's still obviously very talented. Michael Thomas is still very young. He's not, 30 years old. He's still a young receiver, in his mid 20s. So that would be a great spot for him. I just picturing Deshaun Watson playing like in the Superdome, um, the fast track, all that stuff. I think he runs the ball well there. I think he has weapons like Thomas. I think he could put up good numbers in a New Orleans uniform. You look at the stuff like Taysom Hill does. Taysom Hill when he comes in and runs the ball. Well, with Watson, you've already got that.
Yeah.
With Breeze, you had to Peyton had to put in a special pack, and you probably still do some stuff with Hill. Obviously, he's a good talent, but you don't have to now take Breeze out to put in the Hill package, right? You already
Right.
have Deshaun Watson, and you're not going to run him into the ground, of course. That's why I'm saying you'd still use Hill, but you don't have to go to your other quarterback to do some of these running plays. You can run those plays with Watson. You want to be careful with him for health wise, but you can mix in those runs here and there. You can do stuff like the Buffalo Bills do with Josh Allen, and run some of those QB draws and things like that, which I wish Buffalo would have done more against Kansas City in the AFC Championship. I think they went away from Allen a little bit too much, and they could have
Sorry,
used him. But
coach.
yeah, at least, hey, still got my Bills cup here, so
There you go.
still a fan. A little disappointing, but hey, what are you gonna do? The Chiefs are a good team, so. But no, I mean, I think you can use Watson like in those
Mhm.
ways, and the ways you use Hill, and you don't have to. You've got the whole package in one guy.
Oh,
So
here's
yeah,
here's what I like too is the Alvin Kamara factor, right? Where
yeah,
he's not a guy that you just hand the ball off to a lot, but the short little passes to
yeah,
Kamara where then he takes it for 20, 30 yards, that's still
yeah.
racking up fantasy points for the
Oh
quarterback.
yeah,
So I think
oh
that's
yeah.
that's pretty exciting as well. So could be a good fit right there. And I want to throw
Yeah.
one more at you before
Okay.
we call it
All
here.
right.
Last one. I don't know if this is a good thing or not, but
I don't know if I want to hear this or not. I don't know.
well, I think you would like it because you've
Okay.
got Terry McLaurin on your
Ah,
dynasty
okay.
team. What if he went to
Okay.
Washington, who I think
Wow.
could use a
Oh yeah.
quarterback? You've got Antonio Gibson. You've got this dynamic young running back who's pretty good
Yep.
catching the ball. You've got Scary Terry, if that's what we're calling him
Yeah.
at this point. You've got him there as well. What do you think about him landing in the Washington to be named team?
Yeah. I mean, not as excited there
Yeah.
as, some of the ones we've said, but they're up there still because you do have those weapons. Like you said, Gibson came out and balled out as a rookie, right? McLaurin has proven he can be a beast. I think depth wise, you don't have quite as many options, um, but yeah, I mean, Washington, I mean, Alex Smith came in there and had some okay games, right? And you can, if Watson goes there, he makes them way better and he makes those guys way better. So yeah, I mean, sure, as a McLaurin owner, I would love it if he went there for sure. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's as exciting to me personally. And maybe that's just because I can't get that excited about the Washington football team right now. Um, they just haven't been great for a while. Yeah, they won the division this year at 7-9, but um, yeah, not as exciting for me, dude. But
There's
I
a
mean, but yeah,
low bar to clear there to
I
win
know.
that
Yeah,
division.
but hey, dude, yeah, the McLaurin Gibson. I mean, they were 7-9 this year. Again, if Watson's there in that division,
Hmm.
they could easily win the division again. I mean, I know you got Dak, probably, come back with Dallas and all that, but dude, I mean, if you can go 9-7, 10-6, win the division again, and now you have Watson on a playoff team, because once you get to the playoffs, right, anything can happen. So now I'm kind of going to real football mode here. But to me, real football wise, you bring in a guy like Watson. Now, they're in that playoff game with Tampa this year. You have a way better chance to beat him if you got Deshaun Watson, right? And if
Yeah.
and if a quarterback like Watson gets hot in the playoffs and the guys around him start playing better, a team can make moves. So, I mean, going to a team like Washington makes them a team that could be a little bit scary, that could get in the playoffs. And anytime you're playing a team with a quarterback like a Deshaun Watson, that's a little bit scary because that's a guy that could literally go out and almost win the game by himself if he plays lights out. And if you have a couple weapons like a McLaurin and a Gibson. So, yeah, fantasy wise though, not quite as excited about that, but I could see that turning into something really good if he went there for sure.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be the worst. I still think you've got Miami and the Jets. You have those
Yeah.
two teams as your top two landing spots. And if you went to either one, I don't think I would. I'm certainly not lowering Deshaun Watson in my rankings if he lands in
Right.
either spot. I think
Sure.
there's potential in both of those. I'd rather see Miami, but it's not the
Okay.
same as if he somehow lands in Denver, if he lands with
Yeah.
the Steelers, one of those places. Then I think if you are a fantasy
Yeah.
manager that has Deshaun Watson, you're taking a victory lap if he winds up
Oh yeah.
in one of those
Absolutely.
places. But again, not the end of the world if he's a Jet
Sure.
or a Dolphin. But again, just not victory lap time if he lands in either of those spots.
No, I hear you. I hear you, man. in the Jets, I pretty much agree with you. I might move him down a spot or two, but not anything more than that, just because even if he's with the Jets, I think like we mentioned, he's probably playing from behind. He's gonna have those chances to run the ball where the defense are playing a little more prevent style, where they're up big late. He's gonna get those garbage fourth quarter points.
Yeah.
So honestly, like yeah, even with the Jets, maybe I don't move him down. I think about more. Maybe I just keep him like number 5, maybe 6. But quarterbacks on bad teams can still put up really good fantasy numbers, just because of the type of defense they're going to face late in the games when they're down a lot. So, yeah, dude, I don't really move him down either, more than a spot if I have to. And then, like you said, the potential for him to move up with some of those teams that we talked about is huge.
All right. Well, I think we covered just about all of the possibilities. I know there's a few more out there, but we
Sure.
covered the main possibilities for Deshaun Watson, where he may land. I guess we're just gonna have to wait as the drama unfolds, and we'll eventually find out where he goes to. But very, very talented player. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in him. And now that that Stafford deal has gotten done, I wonder what this deal is going to look like. How many firsts is it going to take to actually get Deshaun Watson? Going to be really interesting to see, and something absolutely to keep an eye on, because there's going to be a lot of fantasy football dominoes that are going to fall based on this Deshaun Watson deal. Where he goes could make or break some players. Like I'm going to start projecting a career year for Allen Robinson if he winds up in Chicago. So there's a lot riding on this, and it's more than just Deshaun Watson's fantasy value. But KO, thanks for coming on here and breaking this down. I think we covered just about everybody. And the more we talk about this, the more excited I get. Can we just start the season? It's not even the Super Bowl yet. Start next season. Let's go.
I was just going to say, man, it's already been an exciting offseason with Stafford and now with Watson potential. Like, It's already been exciting. And we're not even the Super Bowl yet, like you said. So, yeah, let's keep this rolling, man. I like it.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you do subscribe right here to the Fantasy Teachers YouTube channel. You guys know we are getting this thing up and running, getting it going. So make sure you are subscribing and you get notified every time we have a new video out. Till next time, see ya and stay safe.
See you guys.